It's Qué Golazo time in our weekend recap. We have Man City beating Sheffield United, Manchester United tying with Arsenal. We got Liverpool showing a masterclass against West Ham. We have La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, Copa Libertadores, PSG losing to a relegation-ridden team, and so much more. Heath, Pearce, and Jimmy Conrad is here. So stay tuned because Qué Golazo begins right now. Hey everybody, welcome to Qué Golazo. It's our weekend recap. And of course, I can't do this by myself. We need, as always, Jimmy Conrad. Jimmy, what's up, man?
What's up? I'm wearing my Palmeiras jersey. They're my new favorite team in Brazil. I mean, I've supported them for years, so I'm really excited that we won our first Copa Libertadores trophy since 1999.
Palmeiras lifelong fan, Jimmy Conrad. Well done. Heath, Pearce, how are you, bud?
I'm doing good. Yeah, as they won this weekend, I was like, I wonder how my Palmeiras fan is doing, but clearly, you know, he's doing well. I got my mate going again. The coffee stopped working, so I'm back on the on this cleaner stuff.
Oh my God. Look at you two. Amazing. But anyway, Jimmy Conrad, Heath, Pearce, our weekend recap, plenty of action. And when I say plenty, please make it full caps, exclamation marks, so many games. And we begin, of course, in the Premier League. And let's begin from the top of the table all the way down. We'll do that in terms of the league table. Man City, keep on rolling. It wasn't exactly a breeze through match, but they got the win 1-0 against Sheffield United. Jimmy Conrad, give me your thoughts immediately from that game as Pep Guardiola's team continues to roll as a rotated squad, by the way.
Yes. So I started John Stones in my fantasy team and he went with Laporte. So I'm not happy about that. That's my initial thought about this whole goddamn game, Luis. But I am happy to see that a former Palmeiras player scored. Gabriel Jesus, 1-0. Great work by Ferran Torres. 75% possession for City, and they only gave up one shot on goal. And Sheffield played in the 5-3-2 and hope for the best. This was City all day, every day. Not a big surprise. I think, predicted that this is going to be the scoreline or close to it. So nothing to see here. Man City, for me, are still the clear favorites to win the Premier League.
Yeah, nothing to see here. And as you mentioned, not just John Stones, but this ruined my fantasy, Heath. It had Joe Cancelo didn't play, Raheem Sterling didn't play. Pep Guardiola was just like, you know what? I'm going to mess with everybody. But again, Man City get 3 points, a rested squad, and we move on.
Yeah, no De Bruyne, no Aguero still, but seeing out a 1-0. I think that's important when you're on a quest for the trophy. Obviously, they got 13 goals against in the whole season so far after 20 matches, which I think is really impressive for a team that was kind of way out of the trophy or title conversations early on. And maybe we just misjudged them because they weren't scoring copious amounts of goals and winning, but being able to win 1-0 and have a performance like they did between Diaz and Laporte, I think is really important at this point in the season.
Yep, and I think it's really important to remind everybody that when Man City, not just one player, two players, as Heath mentioned, De Bruyne out, etc., but when everybody gets it, everybody better watch out because that's really when Man City gets really, really scared.
Yeah, the last thing I would say about that, by the way, is that City have Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, Gladbach, West Ham, and Manchester United coming up. So I think the month of February is going to be the indicator of what Man City we are getting. Obviously, they've been good all year. They've had some goal droughts, but a 1-0 win is still 3 points. And so that's where I think we're going to see a lot of shifting within the table. And, of course, there's always that crunch time, that month of the season that teams get tested, but ours is, or at least this one is coming up for Manchester City.
But Palmeiras fan, Jimmy, it's good when Gabriel Jesus scores, right? As long as those goals keep coming from somebody like him, that's going to help them.
Of course, I think it helps give balance to City when they have a striker, an out-and-out striker who is going to hit the score sheet. And not only that, obviously, to hold the ball up and allow them to transition in a meaningful way. But like I mentioned before, with Sheffield in that back five, front three in front of that, it was just going to be hard to break them down. So you need somebody up there who's shifty, can find some space. Ferran Torres on the goal in particular did very well to find some room and to kind of crawl through a couple of guys at the end line to get it back across. And Jesus did well to get it out of his feet. It's good for him. He needs that confidence. He needs to score a few goals. And I think that takes pressure off of him, of course, but also his teammates for having to carry the team game in and game out. So this is a good thing for City. Just another player stepping up when they're needed to. And again, that just speaks to City's balance. And I'm not backing off, despite the big February that Heath mentioned. I'm not backing off City being the favorites at this point.
Yeah, no, it's a fair assessment for sure. All right, let's move down the table. Second place, Manchester United. They fought hard, I guess, against Arsenal, who fought hard, I guess, in a stalemate, 0-0. And my God, every time we predict this game, Jimmy Conrad, I'm going to get you in a second, Arsenal fan, Heath Pearce. But Jimmy, the big six, right? Sometimes these games are so depressing. It wasn't boring, I guess, but it was close to it.
It was a little more wide open than I was anticipating. United very good away from home. Just set a record now, 18 games unbeaten in the league. And I thought Arsenal were going after it too. So from that, like in terms of intention and initiative and trying to make things happen, I thought it was there. Just a little quality lacking. Lacazette hit a great free kick, hit off the crossbar. Smith Rowe I thought was very good. Cavani missed a couple sitters, right? They're not the easiest of chances, but you consider a guy with his type of ability to really make a dent with his opportunities when he gets them, even if they're half chances. I thought Bruno Fernandes, all things were pretty quiet. I think maybe that's more a testament to Arsenal. Partey and Xhaka doing a good job of crowding him and not letting him do what he wanted to do. But I thought a draw was a fair result in a lot of ways, and I want to hear Heath's thoughts specifically because he's an Arsenal fan. But I kind of want all 90 minutes of my life back from those. But we watched it, and I learned a few things, and then we move on with my life.
Yeah, pretty much like a really boring history class in 8th grade. we were there and we got some stuff out of it. All right, Arsenal fan Heath Pearce. How did you see this one? Would you say Mikel Arteta is happy with the point or disappointed?
When you look back, obviously you have to be, if again, it's the usual, like kind of one in the hand, two in the bush of like before the game, you would take a point against Manchester United. However, you look back and you realize that there could have been something there. There wasn't a ton of chances. I thought Pepe was also good in the match and pretty dynamic, but outside of Lacazette's free kick, there wasn't a whole lot, but no Tierney, no Alba. No Sacco. So I think overall this is a disappointment for Manchester United, right? If they're going to go, I think 4 draws and 2 losses against the big 6 is their record so far this year. And it's becoming this thing where I tune in to see, is this Manchester United team a title contender? Look, Jimmy's talking about the record they set of 18 games unbeaten, but against these big 6, you got to be able to also scrap out some of these points. And a draw is not bad. Look, 4 draws against them, you can be happy with that as well. But I feel like I get into these games and they're just boring games when Manchester United's going into them playing against big teams. They know how to bore the games out, which is fine. And when that was old school Chelsea boring games to death under a Jose Mourinho, they would come out 1-0 winners, right? And that's the thing that I think Manchester United is missing in that. But overall, I think it's a positive win for Arsenal. They're still 10 points behind Manchester United in the table, and they still have a lot to do. But obviously, I thought having Thomas Partey back is good. I thought he was strong. Like Jimmy said, I think he covered a lot of ground and really made it difficult for the attackers of Manchester United. I won't say Xhaka was great because I just hate saying he was great. He drives me nuts me every single time he plays. And there was a moment in that game where he had lost the ball and sort of jogged back and almost got scored on by Man United. And it was almost didn't. TV, I assume. Yeah. But yeah, overall, again, I think one of the things that Jimmy did learn is that you just don't get time back. The time is gone and you never get it back. And that's, you continue to learn that. It's a harsh lesson. You continue to learn that when you watch a game like this.
Yeah, there's something to be said when actually I thought the best player out there was David Luiz. I thought he had a pretty good game, but absolutely. Let's get those minutes back. All right, let's keep going down because as of a few hours before we just started taping, Liverpool with a really beautiful performance. It must be said. The old Liverpool is back. The new one that was asleep perhaps suddenly waking up again with a great 3-1 win against West Ham. Mohamed Salah was excellent. It wasn't just him. Everybody was good. Heath, let's begin with you. What you make of this win? Once again, Jurgen Klopp, it seems that they're back.
Yes. When you got Salah firing like that, when you have the touch that he had and the finish that he had, it's just tough. And look, this is full credit to Liverpool. This is a very, very depleted Liverpool squad that was able to get this result. And you could see Jurgen Klopp's tone is changing a little bit when he's talking in the media. He's a little bit more calm. And again, it's on a day-to-day basis because, no Mane is perfectly good reason for him to be like, all right, this whole season is a wash. I'm going to be angry with everybody. But, to see Salah back after after just having the drought is a good indicator, right? And to score 3 goals is a good indicator because you're going to have to, when you don't have a good defense, you're going to have to score more goals than the other team in this situation. Even though I think the defense did play well, but you know, you're playing against, well, actually, to be fair, West Ham's a good team right now. So, yeah, I think that keeps the conversation going for them within the title race. But it's one of those ones where each week you look at them, you go, is this the week that they're going to break? Is this the week that Liverpool's going to break? They're not in first place right now, but they keep on finding a way with a depleted roster. And I just feel like they're getting enough excuses now through injuries to be able to write off the season, but they're staying in the conversation.
Yeah, Jimmy, Heath said something there that's pretty good segue for you, I think. Obviously, we'll talk about Liverpool in a second, but West Ham, I mean, having a good season, but was this maybe a wake-up call for David Moyes?
100%. He said so afterwards that was a very, very, very good Liverpool team, and they were. That was peak prime Liverpool at their best. The second goal in particular, where they countered off a corner for West Ham, going the other direction. You know, Trent Alexander-Arnold out wide, Shaqiri into Mo Salah. That's the goal that Heath was talking about as well. Good touch and finish. 3 passes, and they went 100 yards and scored. It was ridiculous. And that's the Liverpool that I think everybody's accustomed to over these last few years, and I've almost been spoiled in some ways. West Ham, though, I thought the first half, they kind of West Ham their way into that one. It was boring. It looked very similar to Arsenal, Manchester United. And then things started to kick off after a goal was scored in the first one. I do want to say, with regard to Jurgen Klopp, because I'm going to pivot here and segue myself from West Ham to Liverpool, I almost think that he deserves more credit for this particular season than last season when he won it for the first time in 30 years, because this season is a dumpster fire. They've only lost 3 games. They've still scored more goals than anybody else in the Premier League, and they're 6th best defense. And when you take all that into consideration and everything that they've gone through in this congested schedule and all the whining we've heard from Jurgen Klopp, they're still getting results. And I actually think that's more of a testament to his managerial ability than maybe when everything is going right for you like it did last season. So I don't know where they're going to finish ultimately, but if they get close and keep it to the last weekend, and as their front 3 starts to fire, like we're starting to see now with Mo Salah getting hot again after not scoring for 6 games in the Premier League, which is a pretty long drought for him in particular, watch out for these guys. I feel like they're quietly getting back into, that peak form where they're getting good on both sides of the ball, like we're seeing with Man City.
Well, Jimmy, to your point, they're 3rd right now, 40 points, 1 point behind Manchester United, and 4 points behind Man City, although Man City still have that game in hand, but still they are climbing. Though let me play devil's advocate, and I'll throw this to Heath very carefully. To your point, Jimmy, absolutely. The injuries that they have gone through, the ups and downs that they have gone through, it's commendable. The fact that now they're still climbing and they're 3rd and they're looking to defend that title. I think Jordan Henderson has been incredible, just covering so many different positions. But is it more to do you think, and I'll throw this to Heath and Jimmy, feel free obviously to add, is it more to do with the fact that this has just been a very weird season and anybody is kind of beatable and anybody can be vulnerable at any point? And Liverpool obviously have been doing well as of late, but it's also been a result of other teams not waking up in certain moments.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's why go back to our predictions at the end of the year. That's why I saw City being able to emerge, because they just have the raw talent and the ability to manage a long season with multiple competitions. Yeah, you look at Liverpool last year, but the way that they've been depleted with key members, I think that's different. And that's why that's the only thought that I had of just like, if it's going to be chaos, I like City in the chaos of all this, and the losing a Virgil van Dijk to a Liverpool is going to be a blow for an entire season. It's not going to be, let's just replace him, let's find somebody else. That is arguably your best player in terms of the way that they play. So yeah, I think it is a crapshoot, but that's why I that's what led me to lean towards a Man City who are trending into form, obviously really strong defensively, because they're going to continue all to give up points to each other.
Jimmy, can Liverpool do this? Can they come back? And I mean, I know that we see Man City doing this, but is there a bigger hope to you before now after Christmas than before it?
Well, I'll say them getting knocked out of the FA Cup probably plays into their favor, right? You got one less midweek game to worry about in the future. So maybe that was by design in some ways. Yep. I think that does help them. So they're not having to chase that trophy as well. I won't count them out because that front 3 is so dangerous. If they even have some slip ups defensively, they usually have the capacity to score 2 or 3 goals every single game. They definitely create enough chances to make that happen. They don't lack in those areas. So yes, I still think they're in the conversation. I do think, back to Heath's point about Man City, if Man City does slip up, and I'm not sure why they wouldn't, given the how hard their schedule is through February, maybe that's where Liverpool can gain that ground, maybe get close to them. And if they're kind of like going back and forth, by 3 points or very close or tied, then there's a little bit, the pressure is different. Right now, City's everything's going great for City. What happens when they get punched in the face again? And it's going to happen at some point throughout the next, 3 or 4 months. How do they deal with that adversity? How long does that blip last? Because we just saw Liverpool have a blip and it lasted 4 or 5 games, right? City had their blip early on in the season. It took them a while. Now, when you have that next blip, it can only last 1 or 2 games if you really want to be league contenders. So that's kind of where we are, and it's pretty exciting.
Well, I tell you what, this could come sooner rather than later, as Liverpool face Man City next Sunday. And that's going to be a must-watch popcorn, must piece of television entertainment. All right, let's keep going. Plenty more games in Premier League, and we still got to do the rest of Europe. Leicester City against Leeds. Leeds 3-1. Marcelo Bielsa's, in my opinion, best game of the season. Forget the West Bromwich Albion 5-0. This was a tremendous game. I think he saw what happened against Leicester in November. He studied and he realized, you know what? The best way to attack them is that every single time we get the ball back, we counter like crazy. And that's exactly what happened. Leeds, Heath Pearce win against Leicester City 3-1. A great win.
Yeah, the part 2 of that is make sure Jamie Vardy's not playing, because that's what the first time around involved, and it didn't go well. But Leeds is just a breath of fresh air, right? I don't know if they're going to go down or win a championship, and they play wide open. When it was 1-1, right? They went down 1-0. When it was 1-1, they were giving up chances, and they just didn't change the way they played. But the counterattacking game, the speed at which they countered, Patrick Bamford, unbelievable. Could have had a brace, but was shared the love with Jack Harrison. And it was just, yeah, all around. But more than anything of Leeds playing well, they play wide open, but they were clinical today. And I think that was the difference. Is Leicester had plenty of chances to score. But
I mean, they scored first, so they had the goals to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of those early goals where, like, you could see it was just like a deflated moment where it just looked like Leicester was going to run away with it, where it was just like anticlimactic. They scored, and it just felt like, oh, one of the big teams scored against one of the smaller teams. This game is over, because it was very early. I think it was in the first 10 minutes of the game. But yeah, Leeds were just, I think it was like 6 shots. 5 of their first 6 shots were on frame, and just very clinical in the way that they finished those. So, just a perfect result for them to go out against the Leicester City team.
And I tell you what, Jimmy, Conrad, you look at this Leeds side right now, they are 12th, but 3 points behind, 3 points behind. No, let's see. Yeah, 31 points with Arsenal 10th. Southampton has 29, even on points with Leeds United, but Leeds have a game in hand on Arsenal as well. So they could make their way to the top of the half of this table. What do you make of their performance? Would you agree that it's their best one yet this season?
I thought it was very good. And I think, to your point, Luis, that you said, they learned from the first time they played these guys. And I think that's important. That's an important footnote to add to this, because that means that Marcelo Bielsa is recognizing it and he's getting his team to adapt. And really, when you guys watch these highlights, if you have the chance, their transition play from defense to attack, and how crisp they're passing it, and how quickly they get it up and break the lines, just so that Leicester can't even get settled again. I saw a play, the goal that Bamford scored, the first one was, or the only goal he scored, was sick. And it's Johnny Evans, Leicester center back, clearing the ball up the sideline, and they lose it. And within 3 passes, Johnny Evans can't run back in the 15 yards to cover his ground, his area, because Bamford's already in, and he hits an absolute peach of a goal with his left foot. And that really sealed it. You could see the belief that Leeds had. What I thought was funny was that this is now to Heath's point, that they're either going to get relegated or they're going to win the league. I mean, that's how Leeds plays. I looked at their record. They're in 12th, and I saw that, and you look at the points, but I looked at their record. They have 9 wins and 9 losses and only 2 draws. That's the least amount of draws in the league. And that record speaks to what they do. They either crush you or they get absolutely embarrassed. And it's like, there's no middle ground. And I find that interesting. If Bielsa and his team can somehow figure out that middle ground, then I could see them maybe punching their ticket into a top 6. I don't think that's going to happen this season, but in future seasons, as they start to kind of mature and evolve in these tactics, this could be a really, really special Leeds team, especially when they're probably going to start spending money to make their team even better.
I think a lot is said in their goal differential. I think that's where you see everything.
Yeah, that too.
They've scored 35 goals and they've conceded 36.
That's the
incredible.
record and the goal difference. It's crazy how like balanced they are and either really good or really bad.
Yeah. It was a little past the 60th minute when I saw Bielsa was staring at the ground for like a minute straight. And I don't know if it made it into the highlight package, but they're getting leaned on by Leicester, right? You could feel this momentum shift, and he's just doing his typical squat and he's staring at the ground. And in his mind, you can just see, should I change the way I play? Because it feels like it's not going to work out today. A few minutes later, they score a goal. And then, later on they put the dagger in, but yeah, it's fun to watch. It's a high risk, and not particularly with the quality that they have. It's very, very high risk, but it's working.
Yeah, well, Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds to definitely the neutral is
really quick, Luis. I just want to say that performance from Leicester made me think they're not going to finish top 4 anymore. That's their 6th loss of the season out of 21 games. I just don't know if they have it. Yes, Jamie Vardy was missing, and Wilfred Ndidi was missing, who I'm a big fan of, holding it down in front of the back 4. I just don't know if they're going to have enough. That's what I'm going to say, especially with the emergence of Chelsea that look pretty good against Burnley today for Thomas Tuchel.
And Europa League coming back as well, so the schedule's going to get busier for them. But let's do that Thomas Tuchel Chelsea win. Chelsea beat Burnley 2-0, and Azpilicueta scores, Alonso scores. It's just everything that you wanted. If you're Tuchel, that's exactly what you wanted. Jimmy, let's begin with you. So they drew against Wolves. Obviously, he had like half a day to be with them in terms of training, a little bit more time now. And, you see a little bit more. Of course, it's Burnley. And we saw this coming, I guess. But you're beginning to see the shift and at the very least, the mentality.
Well, a couple things that I found interesting. One was the starting lineup, right? He's still going to be tinkering to figure it out. 3-4-2-1. He goes with Azpilicueta's in the back 3, but somehow, some way, this guy gets around Callum Hudson-Odoi in the box to bury the first goal. And then you have Marcos Alonso, the other quote-unquote wingback, getting forward to score as well. That doesn't bode well, I think, for the rest of the Premier League if these guys start to really figure it out and create these numerical advantages out wide and still try to create those numerical advantages in the middle of the field as well. And if they get that passing and that rhythm down, I really think they're going to find that thing they were lacking under Frank Lampard. Also, the other thing I found interesting was that Tammy Abraham started as the number 9. He got pulled at halftime. Timo Werner went up top, and Christian Pulisic came in, who ended up getting the assist for the Marcos Alonso goal. That just shows me that things aren't settled yet. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to move the best with which set of players are going to work the best. Yeah. So interesting times, and then I see some names. I thought Jorginho was out under Lampard. He's back in. Rudiger, who wasn't even playing for Frank Lampard, is now playing regularly. Interesting times. I thought Callum Hudson-Odoi was fantastic again. So he doesn't get enough love when they bought all these players to like replace him or to start over him. And he's proving that he's the goods.
Well, Heath, before we get to you, just one very funny tweet from the Athletics' Liam Twomey, who was talking about this game, and Sean Dyche was shouting to Liam Brady after the last time, he did multiple ones, but the last time Hudson-Odoi overlapped him, and he was like, Robbie, tune in, pay attention. And Brady was like, I know where he is. I just can't stop him. What do you want me to do? I love it. Heath, looking good, Chelsea under Tuchel, but it's very early.
Yeah, I feel like also with Pulisic starting on the bench, he pulled Pulisic aside and was like, "Hey, listen, I know what I've got from you, but I've got to make a sign that you're not above the law. So I'm going to start you on the bench and leave you here for this game." But honestly, I think the hardest part with this team, right, is who is going to be your attack. You've got expensive players, right? And then you look across it. You got Ziyech, you got Pulisic, you've got Mason Mount, you've got Tammy Abraham. You've got
Timo Werner. You've got Kai Havertz. Like, that is a lot to figure out in this time, right? And not one of them has given you what you've paid for yet, right? And I think that's a really hard thing, and a thing he's going to have to tinker with for quite a while, or look to make changes in the summer. Because I like, that's a lot of young players all around the same age, all costing a ton of money, none of which have become the star. Like you see flashes from all of them, but no one's being consistent enough to say, that's my position. I'm the number 9, or I'm the number 8. I'm the number 10.
And so I think that's going to be a challenge for him for the rest of the season. Obviously, it's great to be able to tinker while you're getting results. But, if you're the manager, it's a great start to his campaign with Chelsea. And also, when you're saying this is exactly how you want to start for Tuchel, if Tuchel was managing in 2017 and it was Azpilicueta and Alonso scoring, then maybe that's how you want to start. But as Jimmy said, this is an indicator. It's a scary thing for the Premier League if these guys are the ones leading the way. But in all seriousness, I think it's a great result.
Yeah, well, let me just say the rest of the results from the Premier League and then final thoughts from both, because we have plenty more around Europe. But Jimmy Conrad's Newcastle with a good win. Callum Wilson was fantastic in this one. They beat Everton 2-0. Palace beat Wolves 1-0. West Brom and Fulham tied 2-2. Villa win 1-0 against Southampton. And finally, the last game of the weekend, Brighton 1-0 against Tottenham. That's a big loss, especially after losing the previous game against Liverpool for Jose Mourinho. Final thoughts before we move on to the old continent. Jimmy, let's begin with you. Final thoughts from the Premier League this weekend.
I would say with Tottenham, that is obviously a devastating result. First time they've started without Harry Kane because he got hurt against Liverpool. So not a good sign. Steve Bergwijn started in his place. I'm curious to see how they respond. They have a very, very big game this weekend. I'm pretty sure it's against Manchester City, if I'm not mistaken. And it should be, or no, excuse me. They played Chelsea on Thursday. So I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to respond. Obviously, Chelsea feels like they've got some resurgence. And then with regard to Newcastle, Steve Bruce, baby, he's got 2 wins over a Champions League winning manager, Carlo Ancelotti. And you love to see it, even though I still think he should be fired.
Yeah, well, this was all about Carlo. I thought Wilson was amazing in this one. A complete nightmare in this game. Heath, final thoughts from the Premier League before we move on.
This, to me, I'm talking about Spurs here, is a battle of managerial excellence. You've got Jose Mourinho versus a Graham Potter who essentially started his managerial career with a 3rd division Östersund, promoted them to the 1st division, got into the Europa League after winning the cup, and now here he is, going punch for punch with greatness. And so, overall, I just wanted to say, do you remember when Spurs, and this is not me as an Arsenal fan saying this, do you remember that Spurs were top of the table at one point this season?
Wow.
And Jimmy said they're still going to finish the season with a significant trophy. And I know he's adding the FA Cup in there, but do you still feel that, Jimmy?
I do. I don't. He's not going to be the Premier League, but I could see them winning the League Cup over City. I think that's going to be a great final in April.
Now the League Cup is in there?
Yeah, put the League Cup in there. This isn't the Community Shield. I mean, listen, when Mourinho wins a trophy, he counts it no matter what. So he will.
Fair.
He definitely counts it. Absolutely. Well, that's the final part of the Premier League. When we come back, we will touch the rest of Europe. There's a lot. So we're going to go all around the continent, including La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, and much more. Stay right here because we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Qué Golazo, our weekend recap with Jimmy Conrad and Heath Pearce. We begin in Spain. Let's begin in Spain. La Liga. Real Madrid lose to Levante. Atletico keep on rolling, 4-2 against Cadiz. Villarreal and Real Sociedad tie 1-0. And Barcelona, thanks to a ridiculous free kick from Lionel Messi, I wonder how much that's worth in his contract, win 2-1 against Athletic Bilbao. So basically, aside from Real Madrid, it's as is for Atletico, who are really on a run right now, on the way to 100 points to win this league table. It's really quite a remarkable run right now. So I just want some thoughts here. Let's begin with you, Jimmy. Thoughts from La Liga from this weekend?
Well, I'll start with Barcelona. Leo Messi did score a ridiculous free kick. Barcelona ended up scoring all 3 goals in that game. Jordi Alba had an own goal, and then Antoine Griezmann scored again. That's a good sign for Barcelona. When Griezmann's scoring, putting himself in good positions to do that. Obviously, he was under a lot of duress and pressure, just not hitting the back of the net, not feeling comfortable under Ronald Koeman. It seems like they've got past that, and now Barcelona is starting to be a little bit more consistent in their play style. Also, I'm really impressed. Messi's got all this big contract stuff that's been exposed. For him to handle that type of pressure and that type of drama off the field and to do it with real class on the field really speaks to his greatness in a lot of different ways. But a big win for them. I got to give a shout out to Atletico Madrid. Luis Suarez has a brace. Every time he scores, I always look at Barcelona like, what were you guys doing? How do you let that guy go? He's on top of the La Liga scoring charts with 14 goals. He's absolutely cruising right now. And then Real Madrid losing to Levante. Bad defending by Militao, who really hasn't been the signing they thought when they picked him up from Porto. you know, he gets an early red card. They're playing down a man the whole time, and no Sergio Ramos either. I mean, when Sergio Ramos doesn't play, they're a different team. And I know we'll get to PSG eventually. When Verratti doesn't play for them, they're just a different team. So Sergio Ramos is a winner, and winners win, and he holds everybody else to a high standard. So yeah, outside of that though, pretty kick-ass weekend in La Liga. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, emphatically with Atletico Madrid as well. Well done to them. Heath, any thoughts from Spain as pretty interesting results came in this weekend?
Yeah, for me, it's only that as I was looking at schedules of sort of the big four there, Atletico Madrid actually have the most balanced schedule. I think end of February, they've got Villarreal. They've got first leg of Champions League, round of 16. They got Villarreal, and they've got Real Madrid, all within a kind of a 2-week period of each other. But outside of that, they've got a pretty well-balanced schedule in terms of playing Sevilla in April. They've got Barcelona in May. It's just, it looks really good for them against these teams, and obviously they've got plenty of depth. And so I'm almost at a point where I'm like, there's a point of no return that's happening soon because they have this balanced schedule. There's not really this 5 or 6 game run where they're going to have to play, everyone and try to climb their way out. They've already got a nice point, I think 10-point cushion right now within the league, and not really anything on the schedule that looks difficult unless they find themselves semifinals of the Champions League where it can get really complicated. But, overall, just a really exciting weekend in La Liga, and amazing to see Atletico continue this run of form.
10 points with a game in hand as well, which is very important to remember. All right, let's go to Italy. Serie A. AC Milan win 2-1 against Bologna. Inter demolish Benevento 4-0. Sampdoria lose to Juve 2-0. And Atalanta, well, they got one in the Coppa Italia, but Lazio got their revenge here as they win 2-0. Any thoughts from Serie A, Jimmy Conrad?
Well, the top 6 teams all won, so there's not much to speak there. And it seemed like they all beat teams that they should beat. Though I do want to give a shout out to Lazio. It's 5 straight wins for them. They leapfrog Atalanta in the table, which obviously is nice revenge for them since they, as you mentioned, they lost to them in the Coppa Italia 3-2 a few days ago. I was really impressed with Lazio. I got to watch a good portion of this game. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic was so good. He hit one off the post on a header. He missed a free kick by like an inch. That would have been ridiculous. He's just, I don't know how he's still at Lazio. I'm surprised the club hasn't come in and purchased him. I think Manchester United's been circling around him for many, many years. He'd be a nice addition to the squad. But yeah, I thought Lazio was very impressive. And obviously it's a good time if you're in the knockout rounds of either the Europa League or the Champions League to be peaking at the right time. Juve looked very good, very, very professional performance there. Morata is just like, a different person when he wears a Juve jersey. It's nice to see Weston McKennie doing his thing out there. But it was cool. The last goal of the Juve game, they played Sampdoria. It was Juan Cuadrado, former Chelsea player, played it across to Aaron Ramsey for a tap-in, former Arsenal player. And you're like, wow, what kind of parallel universe are we living in? I never would have imagined those two playing together in Italy, of all places. AC Milan, Zlatan missed a penalty. They still end up winning 2-1. And the Inter, Romelu Lukaku scored a brace in the last, 5 or 6 minutes to put the cherry on top for there. But I still feel like one of the Milan teams is still the favorite there. And shout out to Roma, of course, for doing the business against Verona.
Yep, I agree. And by the way, Brian Reynolds is already there. The announcement is imminent. Heath, Pearce, anything there with Serie A as you looked at this weekend?
Yeah, I think as Jimmy mentioned, Lazio were so good. Atalanta were unbeaten in like 14 games up to that point, and we were starting to see we had continued to see that Atalanta team that we had seen last year. Those results included wins over Milan. They won against Lazio in the Coppa Italia. I just think that and now they've fallen short, and now they're 7th place in the league. And you look back on those 14 games, you would think that they would be a lot closer to the top, but unfortunately, that loss really starts to hurt them and take them out of the conversation. The other thing is that Juventus, I kind of wrote them off in the same way that I've written off some other of the big teams in other leagues, but they're only, it looks like 7 points off the pace right now with a game in hand. And with Inter Milan and Milan, neither of which running away. They've been fantastic, by the way. They've only lost 2 times each, but I think Juventus, who've also only lost 2 times, are definitely showing that they're still in this fight, and that any slip ups, as Roma as well, is going to make this potentially a 4-horse race for a final, which may be the only league by the time we get towards April and May that has 4 teams still chasing the final, and probably the first time in a long time that a Big 5 league had that many teams in the conversation, and teams that are playing exciting, where it's not a random year where, no disrespect to Leicester, where Leicester jump up to the top. It's big clubs all fighting for a title, which is exciting.
Yeah, well, as we've said all season, it's given us those feels of the 90s and how it's very competitive Serie A right now. All right, let's move to Germany, the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich doing their thing, 4-1 against Hoffenheim. Chris Richards, by the way, on his way there on loan from Bayern Munich. Borussia Dortmund beating Augsburg 3-1. RB Leipzig, this was the big game. RB Leipzig with the 1-0 against Bayer Leverkusen. So you could say that Leipzig at this moment remains the number 2 team in Germany. Jimmy, thoughts here from Germany?
Not many. I watched a good portion of the RB Leipzig Bayer Leverkusen game. If anything, I was disappointed in Leverkusen. They've got so much firepower in their team. They can score so many goals in so many different ways, kind of Atalanta-esque, right? I mean, you try to close down one thing, another player is going to beat you, and they just didn't show up, and fair play to Leipzig. I don't want to take anything away from them. A nice professional performance. They don't usually win games 1-0. That's not what they're known for. They're more of like a 3-2 type of team. So very, very, let's say, mature performance from them. And now this is still, 7 points lead for Bayern Munich, who do what they do and just demolish teams, plus 31 goal difference. They're cruising. If they can keep things locked down defensively, this league is theirs, and I think it's theirs anyway. I actually just want to give a shout out to Wolfsburg, who quietly have moved up into third. They've only lost 2 games all season. They beat Freiburg today, or this past weekend, 3-0. And then Borussia Dortmund, still hanging around, but they're in 6th, right? I mean, we talk about Dortmund and Dortmund this and Dortmund that, and what a great club, and they're producing all these players. I mean, they sit in 6th. 7 losses already this season out of 19 games, and with no chance of winning this league. So we'll see if that talent turns into something special, a special run, maybe in the Champions League. But I don't know. It's not looking good for those teams in particular.
Yeah, well, and as we continue to think, Bayern Munich will take this one, no doubt. Heath, Pearce, any thoughts from Germany from this weekend?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with Bayern. I don't think that's any secret. If you looked at the way RB Leipzig played, yeah, they're still in 2nd place, but it's not indicative of a team that can do that week in and week out. It's funny. I got a chance to I was talking to Tyler Adams this last week, and he was talking about sort of the genius of their system where he can play wing back, but he's checking into pockets and he's pressing high, and sometimes he's as high as the strikers. And he says that's sort of the freedom that he's been given, a number of different kind of alternative roles, which he was saying is just the genius of their manager is sort of the free movements that they have as options that aren't just traditional to positional play. But the other thing I wanted to mention was aside from Wolfsburg and Frankfurt being in 3rd and 4th, which is wild and pushing some of these bigger teams down, was Dortmund again, even though I think they were down 1-0 early in the game. When they got going, they again looked by far the best team in the Bundesliga, by far better than Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have people that have players that can punish you in an instant. They get a half chance, they will score it. They're clinical. It just seems like their movement is in a way where, like, if this, then that, and that leads to goals. Whereas Dortmund are such a free-flowing attack that when they are on, like they were, there's no one better than them, at least in the attack. I do think, again, they need to go a little bit younger in other parts of the field. They throw the kitchen sink, and that's not the best balance. If you want to win a title, they need to have a little more reinforcement or youth, I think, in other parts of the field. But like, watching them was just, it was fun, and it makes you disappointed that they're, what position are they in? Like 6th or 7th in the table or something like that?
6th.
6th, yeah. When they were on for a good portion of that game, I'd say 60 or 70 minutes, they were incredible. And they were by far better than any performance I've seen from Bayern Munich. But Bayern Munich are clinical in winning matches and managing a full season. And that's an argument to having more experience on the field versus youth. But either way, it's a disappointment to see them down that far on the table and not challenging for a title.
Yep. No, well said. All right, let's wrap everything up here. And I'll try and do a little segue based on Neymar here. His Santos loses to Palmeiras, 1-0 Copa Libertadores. And PSG lose to 18th place Lorient 3-2. The honeymoon period for Mauricio Pochettino is most definitely over. How do you lose that one? Incredible. Jimmy, thoughts from both. PSG losing 3-2 to a team that's fighting relegation. And Palmeiras, your Palmeiras winning 1-0, 98th minute. It was a boring game, but hey, at least you got the win.
I'll start with PSG. So I didn't get to see all of this game. I saw portions of it. It looked like PSG were in cruise control, which isn't a big surprise, but they just made some crazy defensive mistakes. If you get a chance to see these highlights, they are tied 2-2, right? They're in injury time. They bomb everybody forward, and it's a simple ball over the top. The guy goes from a breakaway at midfield. We see these plays happen in MLS, right? And like, oh, that would only happen in MLS. Like, shut up with that stuff, right? You see this happen everywhere. And the fact that it's with world-class players that should know better with PSG is frankly really surprising and obviously unacceptable. So I got my Coach Jimmy hat on right now. You can tell I'm all fired up. It's those are the types of plays that they're still going to win the league. Lyon is gonna put up a fight and it might go down to the last couple weeks. These are correctable mistakes. And as I mentioned earlier, no Marco Verratti in the team. He's so good in the middle of the field to help the team transition and to cover ground. And they're really comfortable with when he's in the squad. They rarely lose when he starts. So, if they can get him healthy, it's only going to help them. I don't really see them tripping up unless they're trying to throw all their eggs in the Champions League basket. And then Lyon just has to play, out of their minds for the next. They have to be perfect ultimately, I think, for them not to lose the league to PSG. Now down to pivot to Palmeiras. Yes, I want all those first 90 minutes of my life back, but those plus 8 minutes of extra injury time, I'm all for. And we saw an incredible header at the back post. Everybody was dead tired at that point. The guy was so happy he jumped into the stands, which COVID situation to you just don't do what are you doing? What are you doing? But the moment was just so emotional and magical and fair play to them. They're having a better season. They have a little bit better team than Santos. I thought Santos maybe had a chance and they hung in there to potentially take it into injury time and penalties, but they just didn't have enough when it counted. And Palmeiras won their first Copa Libertadores since 1999. It's pretty awesome.
Such a classic way, in a way, to end a Libertadores. Just crazy all around. Heath, anything from those two matches or performances?
No, only that Neymar and Santos, the links are what they are. You got to close out games, stoppage time,
exactly right. Exactly right.
And injury time and extra time. Those are all still part of the game. And again, as Jimmy said, it was one of those games where they looked in cruise control. You look, even when you give your chance, you give yourself an opportunity to look away because you're like, do I really want to give 45 more minutes to this game? But they up 2-1, then 2-2, then give up the third one in stoppage time. It's unacceptable. And it's not just Lyon, by the way. Lille are in first place right now. And again, I don't know if they can hold. I don't know if they can hold that up because you just look at the firepower of a PSG and you go, how, right? Jonathan David and Yazici and a few of these other players, Timo Weah coming off the bench late in their game this week, and you're like, okay, it's a fun team to watch. Hopefully they make the Champions League, but to really do it for another 4 months, I just still see PSG finding a way to sneak this one out unscathed. Yeah,
it would be a lot. And as we always say, this is always about being a marathon and not a sprint. All right, that's it from our weekend recap. Jimmy Conrad, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, guys. Way to go, Palmeiras.
Heath, thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. And congrats to the U.S. for beating Trinidad and Tobago tonight.
Hey, everybody. I want to thank Jimmy Conrad and Heath Pearce for joining me today. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Qué Golazo Pod. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and review. We're also on cbssports.com, everywhere on CBS Sports Soccer. Please make sure that you give us all those nice comments. It's the best way to grow our little family here. Have a great beginning to your week and a beginning to your February.